Push start type of band's cool, but the tent plans. I'm back on my bender rolls for the kicks. They quick to give them 2 cents. Put my circle tight like we glued hands. Like I don't believe in new friends. Trail light, I know the ice thin. I drop the song, get a few wins. I crave the comfort in my own skin. Really, I just wanna feel the world spin. If I check, watch me double that. I get it lit, I watch it.
What's up, everybody? How's it going? It's your boy Frankie Fabre with We Are the Brand podcast, presented to you by Fabre Media. And listen, this podcast right here is starting off season 2, which I can't be more excited about. We got a special guest in the studio today. Entrepreneur, sneakerhead, host of his own podcast. But a lot of you may know him as a TV star, on the show, second season of Love is Blind. Jarrette Jones, what's up, man?
What's going on, bro?
How you doing? Welcome to the pod, bro.
Man. Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
Man, absolutely. I'm elated that you're here. You've been busy.
Busy is an understatement, but yeah.
Yeah, man. Like, I think we've been working on getting you here for some months now.
Ooh, yeah. I can go back to text message. You like, all right, man, listen, I ain't gonna try to hound you, but if you ain't free, let me know. I'm like, nah, bro, it's not that.
Nah, so, hey, bro, it's not you, it's me. You know what I mean?
Like, that's really what it was.
But a lot's happened since then.
Yeah.
A lot has happened in the last year in your life.
Yeah.
I remember shooting shooting what we were shooting a film.
Yeah.
And then now you're on Netflix and here we are.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to do, and I think is just super important, right, is getting into who Jarrette Jones is.
Yeah.
Right? Who is Jarrette outside of what many probably know you from, and that's Netflix. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you got some thirsty people out there that are ready to hear the scoop and get, dive into what's going on currently.
Absolutely.
But before we get to that, I want to talk about you and who you are and the unique, beautiful things about you and how that translates into your daily life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So real quickly, just for people who don't know Jarrette, who are you?
There's a lot of layers to that.
Right.
But so first and foremost, I'm just a kid from Chicago. I'm born and raised here, lived here my entire life. Grew up south side of Chicago. Well, really in between the west side of Chicago and the south side of Chicago because my mom and dad weren't married. They just had me and, I was splitting time between both. But my mom moved to St. Louis and sent me to live with my dad full time. And that is where I started seeing, I want to say a very, very strong and very structured household. When I was with my mom, it was pretty much could have done whatever I wanted to do, but hindsight 2020, I felt like if I would have stayed with my mom and moved to St. Louis with her, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. Right. So her sending me to live with my dad, that was the best thing for me, even though I hated that shit.
Right.
I hated it. So south side of Chicago, living with my dad, growing up strict, going away to college, being the first on my dad's side of the family and the first male on my dad's side and first male on my mom's side to go to college. It was a pretty big thing for me, but not only to just go to college, but actually graduate.
Right. Where'd you graduate from?
Ferris State University.
Okay.
So what a lot of people don't know is I almost didn't graduate. So when you go away to college in that first semester, that first year, you just like, all right, I don't know if I'm gonna make it. I got a lot of freedom to myself, so I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna party and not really take school seriously. Right. But that happened in my second year. So my second year, pretty much after football season was over, because I played football in college.
Okay.
After football was over with, I just partied and I lived life. I went to class sporadically, and pretty much when it came down to registering for class for my junior year, they was like, yeah, bro, you got this outstanding balance. I had lost my financial aid, so I had an outstanding balance, and in order for me to register for class for my junior year, I had to pay that balance off. So
how'd that come about?
I just left school.
Oh.
So I back home for that year. I couldn't get my transcript, so I had to make a decision on whether to stay home and just work and become basically another statistic. I went to school, didn't work out, and now I'm just in the workforce. Or I can make something of myself. And I chose to go the second route and took a year at a community college, got some credits up, and then transferred to Ferris, which is where I graduated from.
Right, man.
So,
well, congrats to you on that. Obviously that was a moment in your life that if many were to paint it out, probably would have not happened, but clearly sticking it through.
Yeah.
So in that case, something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
what do you feel was the drive? Like, I know you mentioned not being another statistic, and I think that's important to even acknowledge. Like, what was the drive for you in that moment to say, you know what, despite damn near taking a year off, what was that thing that kept you persistent to say, nah, I'm going to follow this through?
Well, it was two things. The first one is I don't want to be at home with my parents. I saw what freedom felt like, when I was away at college for those 2 years, and I liked that. I enjoyed that. So I definitely didn't want to be up under my parents and having them just try to dictate any and everything that I did. The second thing was just I wanted more out of life. I didn't want to just be working a dead end 9 to 5 just because, I didn't finish college and all I have is a high school diploma.
Right.
And at that time, this was 2007, 2008. At the time, this is when they was really pushing like, oh, you have to go to college.
Right,
you want to have a good job. You have to have a degree. So that was always in the back of my mind. Like, if I want to make something of myself, if I want to be bigger than somebody just working a dead end 9 to 5 that they hate, then I just need to go to college and get my degree. Right. No matter what the cost is going to be, like I have to finish that.
Right.
So
no, that's super important. Definitely. And like, even like with Pops, I know you mentioned he was strict. Mm-hmm. So like, how did that play a role in how you dealt with life and how you dealt with struggles and how you love? I mean, obviously we have the variables, we have our parents, because what people don't recognize is a human being's mind is heavily influenced in the first 7 years, right? And in those first 7 years, your subconscious mind is really developed. And that's from how you love, right? How you handle situations, things that you've seen. It's a sponge, and it's being molded. So it's super sensitive.
Yeah.
As you grew up, obviously, Mom Dukes went to St. Louis and then Pops stood here and you stood with Pops. How do you feel the way that he raised you up and him being strict created who you are today and how you dealt with certain things?
Man, to be completely honest, growing up, like my pops was not an affectionate person at all, which is probably why, as I got older and I got into relationships with women that, affection was something that I struggled with. The way my dad loved and showed love to us is like, I'm providing for you. You don't have to want for anything. So that's it. That's how I'm gonna show love. And it was always tough love.
Right.
If ever I would get in trouble for anything, my dad would be quick to go get the belt or take something away from me, like take me off of sports or have me doing hella chores. You know what I'm saying? Like it was very, very, my dad was a very tough individual. And it wasn't until I got older and our relationship, we started to repair our relationship and things got a little bit better that, he realized that he didn't raise me how he wanted to, but he raised me as the best that he knew how at the time. Right. Because I'm my dad's first.
Right.
I have a sister and she came like 8 years after me, but my dad only knew how to parent me, how he was parented.
What was that conversation like? Because I feel like having those type of conversations, especially with our parents, a lot of people avoid, right? Because of that trauma and that fear. It's like, did you have that conversation with him? Because you said that he mentioned, or I'm assuming you guys spoke about how he may have wanted to do things or done things a little bit different. Like, how was that conversation as a man to talk to, now recognizing, oh, this is a man too, and I'm a man. Like, how was that?
I ain't gonna lie, man. I was very reluctant to have a conversation because I'm the type of person that I build up. It doesn't take long for me to like build up resentment. And I had, a lot of people also don't know that my dad kicked me out the house when I was like 19, 17, 18. And once he had kicked me out the house, like our relationship was never the same. Even though he had raised me, like once you kicked me out the house and I had to go live with a friend for 6 months before I transferred to Ferris in 2010, I was living with a friend.
Did you feel abandoned? Did you feel like betrayed?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because at the time it was over money, and it was money that I had worked my ass off for, and I had saved to go on a trip for spring break, and I'd already had this paid for, and kicked me out the house over money. So I had built up resentment toward my dad. Me and him didn't talk for like 6-7 months. Right. It was my stepmom that stepped in and said, hey, like, I think you guys should talk, this, that, and the third. So we eventually came back, but it wasn't until, I want to say like probably a couple of years ago that we actually sat and talked and had a conversation about it. And he just apologized because at the time he reacted just on impulse. And he knew that wasn't the best thing that he should have done or the best thing that he could have done. Right. But he realized how that affected me and me and his relationship going forward. And he just said, I understand now, you know, what I could have done. If I can go back and change it, I would, but that happened. But it also is making us better for the future. So I just hope, he was like, I hope you can forgive me. And he said he loved me. My dad never really said he loved me growing up. Feel? Man, that shit felt amazing.
Yeah?
Like, that shit felt amazing.
Did you say it back?
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like I didn't have that growing up. So that whole tough love thing, like I've had this shell or just this tough exterior when it comes to like a lot of my relationships because I didn't really have that growing up.
Right.
I had it for a little bit when I was with my mom, but then when I moved with my dad, that shit was like going out the window. So.
Right. You know, one of the things that I've begun to notice, even myself, it's like our parents are literally, if we detach the title, they're just another man or woman trying their best to live life and figuring it out. Yeah. And when I begun to like really look at my parents as individuals and people, it positioned me to learn how to forgive. Yeah. Because I had empathy at that point. I had understanding. I think because there's a difference between knowledge and understanding. When you can know it's the right thing to do, but when you understand something, your behaviors and your choices and decisions change as well. Yeah. And that's one of the things for me. I'm like, yo, my mom did the best that she could with what was in her hands, with who she was, and you know, Pops wasn't around like that, but he was also figuring things out himself. You know, it's just like, I think that those type of conversations that you had are probably the most important. Yeah. For many reasons. One, healing, and two, being able to recognize your traumas. Yeah. Because the reality, and it's like you mentioned, those things affect your relationships with women as well. Yeah. You know, and so with that being said, do you feel that there are things with how you were raised that has made you or influences you subconsciously with dealing with love in certain ways?
Oh yeah, I think the biggest one is probably trust. Right. Right. So as kids, like we're always the first people that we're taught to trust is who? Our parents. Right. And my mom broke my trust at a very young age. You know, one, when she sent me to live with my dad, and two, like as I was living with my dad, she would always say, "Oh, I'm gonna come see you. I'm gonna come see you." Never did. Got to college. "Oh, I'm gonna send you a care package. I'm gonna send you this. I'm gonna send you that." Never did. So that subconsciously, like in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, when I get into relationships with women, like I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. But subconsciously, I'm like, well, my mom really did fuck me over and my parents really did fuck me over. So I'm really not giving you that full trust that I should be, because I still have this hurt from when I was a kid that is creeping back up into my mind and creeping back up into, you know, our relationship. And that's unfair to you, but that's just how it is. Right. And that shit that's not an easy pill to swallow. It's not something that you can just get over. Right. You know,
it takes a lot of courage.
It does.
And it takes a lot of intentionality. Yeah. I feel like a lot of times people don't recognize that time doesn't heal. Yeah. Right? Time doesn't heal all. It's what you do with that time heals all. Yeah. And I think that's the separation, and what people need to understand. The distinctive difference between that time that's passing is how intentional am I with that, and how vulnerable am I with myself. Yeah. Right. Because I get it. I've had, and I have current trust issues with certain things in certain ways, but I try not to defer to that. Yeah. Now I'm very conscious and aware, and I'm not delusional. Yeah. You know, you still got to be street smart and wise, and a lot of times your gut is telling the truth. Yeah. But it's also important not to look at life through a lens that's full of trauma, because then you'll never trust anybody. Yeah. Even yourself. Yeah. Right. And a lot of times, you know, I get it. We lie to ourselves sometimes. Yeah. You know what I mean? To the point where it's like, okay, you can't trust nobody because damn, you don't trust yourself. Yeah. And I think as we begin to experience a lot more healing and really figure out who we are and increase the level of self-awareness within ourselves, we begin to find pockets of healing that are going to allow us to have better relationships. Because that's stuff that I've dealt with and I'm dealing with, like even recently as a grown man, it's like those traumas and dealing with those pains that I didn't know I had. Yeah. But and it's not that I wasn't trying to be intentional to be better, I just wasn't aware yet that I had those issues, because I was always it's odd. It's almost like being in a habitual state of denial where it's not intentional. It's just you've done it so much that those habits are what controls you. Yeah. But I mean, being on the topic, I mean, at this point, I guess we could jump into it since we're talking about love, because obviously this is important.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
being a black man in America, number one, and growing up, you know, here, dealing with daddy issues, dealing with mama issues, like all of these things translate into who we marry, who we get with, you know, how we handle certain situations when we're under pressure, how we fold, like all of those things matter. And it's not about two perfect people coming together and having this perfect, you know, lullaby, you know, and perfect story. It's like, we're dealing with some real shit here, you know, and a lot, you know, one of the quotes that I live by, and I say this all the time, but I think that it resonates with this moment. It was said by Martin Luther King Jr. He said, the ultimate measure of a person is not where they stand in times of comfort and confidence, but where they stand in times of challenge and controversy. Yeah. It's like, you don't really know who you are and what you're made of until that pressure hits, right? To where it's tough. Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay, you know, and those aren't moments that if you fail to bash yourself, give yourself some grace, but also acknowledge that shortcoming and say, okay, how can I be better and do better? And how can I do better and be better, understanding that that's going to be a process and not immediately. Yeah. Because even with that requires grace from both sides. And I don't know the story. I don't know what's going on. And you know, I'm honored that you're willing to talk about it here on We Are the Brand podcast. Obviously, you've been quiet. People have been asking questions. There's been a lot of he say, she say stuff going around. But I think now it's time for you to, you know, step to the plate and kind of have that conversation, you know, with the world. Yeah. So, you know what I'm going to ask, like, what's going on? You know, one moment, you know, you disappear, right? And then you come back and you're like, bro, yeah, I was on a show called Love is Blind. You just gone. And then I'm like, what? No. You know what I mean? Right. You get married. And it looked great. It looked beautiful. It looked lovely. She's a lovely person. You know, I've had the honor to meet her as well. Yeah. But here we are. And, you know, life has happened, and there's been time that's happened longer than what people know, because obviously there's certain things you're bound to in contracts. You can't say certain things. Right. Certain times there's order to the process, right, and to the chaos. So talk to me. What's going on?
I mean, as the world know, at this moment, we are currently going through a divorce. This wasn't what either of us expected, you know, when we said our I do's at the altar. Right. But it's just something that has happened for the betterment of both of us. You know, we came to a mutual agreement and a mutual understanding to say, you know, like we've tried, you know, we've done as much as we feel we can, and you know, this still isn't what we both need, or not what we both need, but what we both want out of a marriage. So the best thing to do for us is to just separate and not create any resentment or have any resentment toward each other, and just go our separate ways and let it be that.
So what led to that? Because I feel like, obviously, I think people feel that, know that, right? Like that's a little more general. But what was the straw to break the camel's back? Like you didn't just wake up one morning and this is where you're at. It's like, what do you feel was happening? Like, how did you get to this space and place to make a decision like that after getting married in front of the world?
So we got married in 7 weeks. We were in this pressure cook environment of an experiment. And, you know, we had to decide. First and foremost, it was always our choice to either even get engaged and then follow through and get married. Like, it was always our choice. Right. A fool would sit here and tell you that you're ready to get engaged and married in 7 weeks. A fool. Right. But, you know, if there's enough there for you to be like, you know what, I think that I want to take this leap of faith, like something is pulling me towards this person. I'm going to take this chance. And it can either be successful, or in my case, it can not be successful. But once those 7 weeks were over and we were now meshing our lives together, like, then we started to really see like, okay, well, we really don't know each other. We're really trying, but it's just really not working. We have been going through, we have been in counseling since December of last year. A lot of people don't know that. People are on the internet saying like, oh no, y'all should go to counseling, work it out, blah, blah, blah. We've been in counseling for 7-8 months.
Right.
And when I say in counseling, I'm talking about going 3 times a month, sometimes 4 times a month. Like we were trying to actively work this out. But I think that the biggest thing is just we were just two very different people. Like, and we tried to compromise, but it's like you can only fit a square and try to fit a square inside of a circle for so long before it's just like, okay, well, I am sacrificing my happiness and what matters to me and to put you first, and then I'm not getting anything in return.
What matters to you?
So
I'm going to ask the question. I'm going to ask them. What matters? What is that?
So when it comes to a partner or someone that I'm going to decide to, dedicate myself to, like, I need somebody that's going to be my co-captain. I need somebody that's going to hold down the fort if I'm not there. I need somebody that's going to trust me. I need somebody that's going to be honest with me. And I also need somebody that's going to be willing to grow and compromise.
Right.
And somebody that's going to be patient, especially with the 7 weeks that we went through to get to our decision. Like, we're not going to know each other in a year. We're not going to have our shit figured out in a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm okay with that. I am perfectly fine with that because I knew what I signed up for.
Right.
I think that there was a big difference and a lot of friction between us because I feel like she wanted more microwave results, is what I call them. And I was just like, I can try to change, but I'm not going to be able to change overnight. Like, this is something that I've been wired to do for my entire life. So to just switch automatically within a couple of weeks or a couple of months, like, that shit takes time. I have to train myself. I have to train my mind. I have to train my thoughts for that.
So do you feel like there wasn't enough grace there for you, enough patience there for you?
Honestly, I don't think that there was enough grace. But and that's just me being completely honest. Enough grace for certain things.
Right.
But we were, we were definitely working on those things, but I also felt like it was something that we just couldn't get over the hump with the whole timing thing. Because for me, I was just like, well, we made it past a year, and there was this whole like, oh, you guys made it past a year, like, that's great. I'm like, that 1 year wasn't shit. Of that 1 year, we were still dating each other, still trying to figure this shit out.
Right.
So like this, there still was, we were trying to fit what people do in years in 7 weeks and 1 year.
Right.
It takes people years to decide, okay, I want to marry this person, or this is somebody that I think that I want to spend the rest of my life with. We were doing that shit in 7 weeks and trying to figure it out in a year, 14 months.
Right.
And I don't think we gave ourselves enough time to actually try to process or work through that shit. I mean, granted, like, we had our issues. I don't think they were, for me, I don't think that they were issues that were like, you know what, I don't think we can't get through this, because I'm willing to compromise, you know what I'm saying, for the betterment of the relationship. But it is what it is.
I mean, if I'm picking up what you're putting down, and I'm not going to put words in your mouth, do you feel like you wanted it to work out more than she did?
I think it was a mutual feeling for us both to want it to work out.
At what point did you guys come to that mutual understanding? Who brought it to who?
What, the divorce, or just to try to
the split? Like I think this is what needs to happen. Was it a conversation?
It was a conversation. I mean, but she brought it to me, so I was just like, I mean, you kind of got a point, because we haven't been. Like, I can tell that there's been a shift in both of our energies, right, over the past couple of weeks. So, I mean, if that's what you want to do, and at that point, like, I was tired too, because I was also like trying to make this work, and that shit is exhausting. Like, that marriage is a lot of fucking work, especially with somebody that you don't know, and you think that you know after being with somebody for 11, 12 months, but that shit is still a lot of work.
So is that what you wanted? at the time? Or,
I mean,
or is that something that you just
went
decided
with it.
to accept and say,
I
okay.
accepted it, you
Right.
know. And I mean, at the time, I was like, you know what? I'm here with you because I feel like I've been doing the same thing that you've been doing, and I'm tired. You're tired. I'm frustrated. You frustrated. Fuck it. Like, fuck it.
Do you have any regrets?
No, I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we just have to be a little bit selfish, and sometimes you just have to put yourself forward and really sit down and ask yourself like what really matters to you.
Right.
And I think in that moment, like I did the best thing for myself, but I don't have any regrets. Like not this whole process, this whole experiment. Like I learned a shit ton. Right. Like I definitely feel like I was exposed when it came to like how I love and how I do certain things, but I also learned a lot about myself and about how to care for, you know, an individual and how to be a better person, a better husband. Like I learned.
So what did you recognize within yourself that you felt like you could have done better, or you feel like you've now grown from through this experience?
I think the biggest thing is my communication style.
Yeah. What do you mean by that exactly?
Because I'm the type that like, I'm not the type to over communicate. I would just, if you ask me, I'll tell you flat out like, all right, this is what it is. But I also learned that throughout that with women, sometimes you got to give them a little more detail. And that was something that I struggled with very early on because it's like, okay, well, I told you. I'm all right. Well, say I'm going out to brunch. All right, I go out to brunch, then I go out after brunch. Then I go out after brunch to another spot. And it's like, well, damn, I thought you was only going out to brunch. Well, shit, I told you I was going out. So I just assumed that you knew if I was going out that I'll be out. I didn't know that I had to over communicate and say, well, I'm going here, now I'm here, now I'm here.
Because you were transitioning from being single and being in these spaces and places and having the lifestyle and habit of living like that to now being a married man and having to shift that.
Yeah.
Is that something that you wanted to shift, or did you feel like, you know what, as much as I do care and love for this person, maybe that's not necessarily a lifestyle that I want to commit to right now?
It was something that I wanted to do, but it was hard for me to do because, again, like I think for the beginning part of our marriage, like I was single trying to learning how to be married.
Right.
Like that shift didn't immediately happen for me. Like I made sure that, you know, she didn't want for anything, didn't need for anything, but also like when I would go out or when I would go kicking a hangout, like I'd be like, all right, well, I'm going out. All right, well, okay, I'll see you when you get back. And then it's like, you didn't go in all these places, like just why you didn't tell me? So right. that's something that I wanted to get to, but that again, I've been my entire life. Like I've been every woman that I've dated, every person that I've been involved with, like it was, all right, I'll tell you where I'm going and I'll be back when I'll be back. And that shit didn't work that wasn't conducive for a successful marriage.
Right. And was that something that you feel like was brought to your attention?
Oh yeah, that was definitely brought to my attention. I think that's one of the problems that we had very early on. You know, with me being an extrovert, me being a people person, like to be out, like to be on the scene, and her being an introvert, her staying in and all that. Like when I would go out, I would stay out, and you know, I wouldn't always be like, all right, well, I done been here and now I'm going here, like. And that was a problem because I was constantly doing it. And she's just like, well, it's not really about you telling me where you at. It's more so a safety thing. And I was like, all right, I'll try to do that.
Right. And it's like, I could definitely empathize, you know, with both perspectives, especially being as you're more of an extrovert, used to a particular lifestyle, her being more of an introvert, used to a particular lifestyle, and trying to mesh these two things together. Yeah. That's going to take a lot of patience. That's going to take a lot of grace. There's going to be a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
And you know, at the end of the day, it's when two people really, really want something and they feel it for each other, you know, it should work. It might work. It may not, you know, based on the statistics, it don't look like a lot is working, but you know, what do you feel currently, like right now, you know, there's a lot of people talking.
Yeah.
vlogs, blogs, tab, all of the stuff, you know. And obviously, you know, she's come out as well and has spoken her part. How do you feel about what she's talking about?
I mean, I don't have any, like, that's her perspective. Like, if that's what she felt went on. I mean, that's fine with me. We obviously, again, we were in the marriage together. You know, I don't fault her for feeling how she felt or saying what she said, you know, but I saw things a little bit differently. So we obviously have two different perspectives on, you know, what we feel like went wrong. But I'm also, I agree with some of the things that she said. Like, I do need to, you know, there's a lot of work that I need to do internally on myself. Because I felt like throughout this marriage, like I was, I wasn't being real with myself. And when I say being real with myself, like, I wasn't always communicating, you know, what mattered to me. I wasn't always communicating my feelings. You know, I would suppress certain things, you know, just to appease her and make sure that, you know, she was good and she was happy and shit. Sometimes I would do that shit with my friends, like, throughout this marriage and shit. So that's definitely something that she said that I was like, you know what, I agree. Like, there's definitely some soul searching that I need to do, some conversations that I need to have with God and myself, you know, just to kind of recenter myself and get myself back to where I need to be.
Right. So what's your thought on moving forward with marriage?
I mean, I definitely still want to be married. Like, I'm big on love. Like, I don't want to be 40 years old chasing women in the club. Like, that shit gets old.
Right.
I don't want to do that at all. So, like, I definitely feel like I still deserve love. I want to be loved and I want to give love. You know, I want a family. So I definitely feel like if the right person comes along and, you know, we decide to take that leap of faith and take that next step to get married, then.
You know, one of the things you just said right now, and I think is just super important to talk about, is the statement, if the right person comes along. You know, I think it's not about waiting for the right person to come along. I think it's about becoming the right person. And as we become the right person, we begin to draw the right people into our lives. And then those things just harmonious. Like, it's harmony in that connection. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And just in love in general, I think that hinders a lot of people is we look outward so much and so often that we forget to look inward. Yeah. And the reality is life is a reflection of what's going on inside. And if that is to be true, then the person we want, we need to become. Right. And I think that in itself, a lot of people would see so much more success and stuff, you know? But then there are things that are out of our control. There are feelings and people and situations and we deal with these traumas. And in order for something to continue to last, we have to have enough grace in those places that's sufficient enough to be like, you know what? All right, Jarrett. All right, let's figure this out. All right, let's do this. And then sometimes it's just better to sever. Sometimes it's like, you know what? I think we just need to go our separate ways. And I've grown and I've learned so much from this. So would you say for yourself, like, what's one of the things or maybe some advice that you would tell yourself before getting into the situation? Like, do you regret being on Netflix and being on the show, or are you happy with that? And then what would you tell yourself now, knowing what the outcome is, what you would do different?
I mean, I don't regret it at all, because I feel like at the time, you know, like, as much work as you try to do to prepare yourself for anything, like, you're never going to know until you're actually in it, you know? And I feel like at the time I was ready for the next phase of my life, you know, with, you know, being married, because I've been single for like 2 years, and I stopped messing with different chicks, you know what I'm saying? So I could just, like, prepare myself and focus on me, and then, you know, make sure I'm right for the next person. So when this happened and the opportunity presented itself, I said, fuck it, why not? You know? Right. Now, looking back, what I would tell myself was probably just be real and authentic and sometimes just be blunt. Because the biggest issue that we had was always communication. Right. It was always communication. And like I said before, I suppressed a lot of shit. So with me suppressing a lot of feelings, especially about what I felt and what mattered to me and, you know, what I think should be done in this situation or that situation, that shit didn't do anything but boil over. And then by the time I was ready to say something, bro, we didn't talk. That shit is like 6 months ago.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I've always done in my life. And that shit has never worked out. But again, like I can't just change overnight. And even my therapist was telling me like, so, okay, well, what about you? What matters to you? What about your happiness? Why aren't you saying these things? What can you do to have a conversation, to tailor the conversation about these things? And I was just like, you right. But it never really came to fruition as often as I would have liked it. So I would tell myself like, don't be afraid to over communicate and just be expressive. Because that if that shit would have happened, then I probably wouldn't have been in a predicament that we were in. But I think that's the biggest thing. And then just not be okay with growing, you know?
Right.
I know we were in this pressure cooker of an experiment, but you're gonna experience a lot of growth within these first couple of months, first couple of years. You know, and I think we were both pushing back on each other when it came to like just letting go and just learning each other and growing together.
Right.
So those are probably two of the biggest things that I would tell myself, like looking back.
Right. So it sounds like, you know, those particular things, if we had enough willingness or enough grace, I think at the end of the day, anything worth having is going to be work.
Yeah.
It's going to be work, man. It's going to be hard. You know, one of the things that, you know, I've heard that people are like, yo, this happened because, I mean, from the beginning, he didn't even want her first. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people just talking a lot of trash. Like, how do you feel about that? Like, you know, because I know that was something that people would address. Like, oh, this makes sense. He didn't even want her to begin with. I
don't understand people. Like, I don't think they understand that this whole experiment, that was always a possibility. Like you could 100% have feelings for more than one person. That's the whole gist of the experiment.
Right.
You know, and it happened to me. It happened on the first season, happened on the second season. I'm damn sure it's going to happen on seasons to come. Like this is not the first and last time it'll happen.
Right.
But people need to understand that and kind of get out of their head that this whole second choice narrative, like even when we announced our divorce, like people were so quick to be like, oh, he's about to go back to the other girl. I knew this was going to happen. She was never his first choice, blah, blah, blah. But like, bro, did y'all watch the same show that I watched? Right. Did y'all know that this was the premise of the show? Did y'all know that this was a possibility? Like, let it go. Right. Like legit, let it go. I think people get so invested with the show and everything that's going on, but they're like blinded by the fact that these things could happen. And to those people, I'm just like, y'all need to do better, bro. Because this is mad. I done got so many DMs and comments and people talking so much shit like I knew this was going to happen, like you said. And I'm just like, how did you know this was going to happen? How did you see this coming?
Right.
Like just because I had strong feelings for two people don't mean that now me and her, our whole relationship is not valid no more because I had feelings for somebody else. Like that shit makes no sense.
Right.
Makes no sense. Like we went through what we went through. I did the experiment and I came out with the person that I chose. And I did this experiment and we tried and we were married and that's that.
Do you think that what everybody was saying had some type of effect between you and her afterwards?
Not for me. I'll tell you that much. Because I don't read the comments. Like I'll see some, but like I won't. It's a black hole if you sit there and read every comment about you and try to go back and forth with people who are saying whatever they're saying or pushing whatever narrative they're trying to push. Like it can get in your mind if you let it. And for me, that was never a thing. Like I'm not finna go back and forth with anybody on the internet, especially somebody who doesn't know me personally, who are going off of 10 episodes. Of those 10 episodes, you may have seen 2 hours worth of me on the screen. Like you don't know me. You just know what was put out there by Netflix for this show. That's all you know. And I have a shit ton of thick skin. So like some of the shit that people were saying and some of the shit that I saw, I was like, all right, bro, like that's whatever. Like it means nothing to me. And I have enough supporters out there that I don't even have to go back and forth with anybody in the comments.
So do you feel that it affected her more?
I think after, like for sure, after the first couple of episodes came out, and I told her like, yo, stay out the comments. Like people are going to be talking. We're now going from regular ass people to having hundreds of thousands of opinions in our lives. And if you let it, it will creep into your mind. And I think after the first couple of sets of episodes came out and everybody was like, oh, she was his second choice. That shit definitely crept back in. And I'm just like,
which I'm sure it's a difficult position to be in.
Oh, man, it was like, cause mind you, this had happened in April of last year. Right. Like we had finished filming in 2021 and the show came out in February of this year. So having to just go through that and relive that after we've already been through it, like in real time, you know what I'm saying? And having discussions about it in real time, and then having to go through it again. But this time, like some of these opinions and people who were saying this over and over again, now it's becoming a thing and it matters to you. And I'm just like, why?
Right.
Why?
Right.
And I tried to avoid that as much as I can. Like I tried to talk to her beforehand, like, yo, like don't let it happen. People are gonna be saying a lot of shit. Like don't just drown it out. All it is outside noise. As long as we secure and everything that we got, we good. Right. I don't think it worked out that way.
I mean, yeah, clearly. Here we are. Obviously, bro, I do appreciate you, opening up to that part. I don't want to sit on that for too much longer. Yeah. What's next? What's next for Jarrett?
Man, I got a couple things going on, bro. So I'm starting my podcast back up, season 3 of the Gentleman's Lounge.
Congrats.
Thank you. I'm about to get back in, well, not back in, but I'm about to get into real estate. So I got a good friend of mine he's a realtor, and we've been talking about just getting a couple properties and, just letting those properties make money for us. So, and then also me getting my own condo so I can Airbnb it out here in Chicago. So I'm trying to go down the real estate path and make a couple dollars while I sleep.
Couple dollars.
And I think I'm about to start my hookah business back up, man.
Dope, man.
It's been laying dormant for a little bit, but a lot of people, when I tell them, they like, you got a hookah business? Why you didn't say nothing? You could be doing this, could be doing that. I did it for about a year and a half, and I was like, my business partner left to move to Dallas, and I was like, damn, this shit is a lot of work doing it by yourself.
Right.
But I think I'm gonna fire it back up, man, because it's a lot of money out here. It's a lot of opportunities for a lot of different things. So I'm just trying to position myself to make as much money as I can, because I don't want to be working the 9 to 5 for the rest of my life.
Right, definitely. So the hookah business, the podcast, real estate. Yeah. Let's talk about the shoe game. You know what I mean? Let's talk about the shoe game, because I feel like a lot of. I was watching the episode. When I was watching the show. Yeah. One of the things I always noticed was new pair of shoes. You know, so like, what's to it? Like, what's your involvement with shoes, and what's your love for it?
So that's another business venture that I'm gonna fire back up right now. Well, as of late, when I was married, she was like, "Why do you got so many shoes?" We damn near ran out of room because I kept buying shoes, so I slowed down on that for a little bit. But I've always had a love for sneakers. I always had a love for kicks, and I got a really, really good plug on shoes. So
I'm gonna need that plug.
I got you. I got you. So I get on. I buy in bulk and then just resell. Yeah. So I'm definitely about to get back on that wave too.
And
so
the resale game is
crazy.
Right.
And I get a lot of stuff that sell out on those sneakers or any of these sites. So
no, that's the move. You seen what happened in, what was it, Memphis?
Yeah, when they raided the Nike. Yeah, that shit crazy as hell.
And then you seen a bunch of people post all these
Bro, I was like, this is why I couldn't get them mochas.
Bro, I was like, that's crazy. Some people had like hundreds. Yeah. Like they said that they stole over 800,000 worth of merchandise.
That ain't shit to Nike, but yeah.
Right, that ain't nothing to Nike for sure. That's a lot of shoes.
I feel like somebody had to tip them off though, because they were those trailers were sitting in the yard,
bro. And there's no cameras. There was no cameras in the back.
Go figure.
No cameras in the back.
Go figure. Somebody tipped him off, bro.
Man, it's like a movie.
Yeah. I wish I would have been there.
Man, hey, I ain't even gonna say anything. I just
let me get a couple pair of them smokers, man.
Right,
you feel me?
Y'all stealing? I won't say nothing, but they got a size 10 over there.
Man, let me get 2 of them.
Right. And I'm on my way. Nah, it's wild, man, that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro, I appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate you chopping it up with me. Before we get off, right, because this is gonna air real soon.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you want to address that you want to say might be a vulnerable moment, or there's nothing else to say?
You know, I think this is, after the altar would have aired by the time this drops. And I know y'all gonna try to push this narrative of whatever. I've seen some crazy stuff out there. People saying I cheated on her, people saying this, people saying that. None of that shit is true. Like, I don't know where y'all got that narrative from or how that even gained traction, but none of that is true. We were literally just 2 people working this experiment, trying this experiment, and it just ultimately did not work. That's it. We're both happy. We're both going through this process of healing, for the betterment of each other. And, we there's no ill will, no ill feelings toward each other. It just didn't work, and we're okay with that. So I don't, please don't try to push this narrative of, see, this is why they was going to break up, or this is why I saw this coming, because none of that is true.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's an experiment, like you mentioned. You guys are literally going through this test, and here are the results, and that's just kind of part of it. And how about you and her? How's your relationship with her now?
Her and I, we still cool. Like, she just went on vacation, and I was cat sitting for her. Like the same cat that I had when we were living together. But her and I, we're still cool. There's no beef between us. I think the world wants us to like not have a relationship and want us to be angry at each other because the marriage didn't work. Right. But that's not the case. Like, we're adults about the situation. We understood where the issues lies and where the issues lied, and we're deciding to move past that and still be cool with each other, still be cordial. Still, I mean, I spent 14 months of my life with this person. Like, I still love her, so like I don't hate her.
Right.
And she doesn't hate me. So like, people trying to push that narrative of we should hate each other, like that's weirdo behavior.
Right.
Like,
right.
100%.
People like drama, bro.
And I'm not going to feed into the drama at all.
No doubt. Hey, well, you said it here first. I'm glad you came on the show, bro. Like,
yes,
I appreciate it. It happened. I'm sure this won't be the last. You got some endeavors that you're doing.
Oh yeah.
We definitely got to talk about those specifically. We just had to kind of get this one out the way and address some things.
Hot topic,
man. It's hot topic, man.
And you got my first interview too,
man. Hey,
first one.
One more time, because that's what color people do. You know what I mean? We'll dap up about 10 more times before we get out of here. No, I appreciate you trusting me with that. Trusting me with that story, being able to push your narrative out there, and just being vulnerable. Because like you said, you go from having 10, 20 people maybe on your case and in your ear to hundreds of thousands of people in your ear who think that they know better and what's better for you and what's not for you and all the above. But to have, that thick skin and still have a cordial relationship with her along the way. That in itself, I think people need to acknowledge as well.
Yeah.
That there's still peace, or you guys are still moving in peace and in love, despite the fact that it did not work out, because that's also a gem. That's also something that everything doesn't have to end drastic and terrible and toxic. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah.
But before we get out of here, man, if you could just holler at them right there, let them know where they can connect with you at, anything that you want to put out there before we go.
Oh yeah, y'all can follow me on Instagram at the JJones_05. I have a TikTok, it's Jarrett J05, but I don't know how to work that shit, honestly. I need somebody to teach me how to work it. You know how to work TikTok?
I know how to work some TikTok. Yeah, we do it for a couple clients. We've done some stuff.
All right, man. I need some help.
And I got you. We're going to cook up, man. We're definitely going to cook up, and you got to follow me on TikTok too. Facts. Not that I got a lot going on TikTok, but you should and eventually will.
I got you.
But yeah. And everybody out there, you want to say something else for it?
Yeah, I was going to say also, You can find the Gentleman's Lounge podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and I think Google Podcasts. So be on the lookout for season 3 coming soon.
You got to get me on the pod, bro.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Say less.
For sure,
What happened? But hey, everybody out there tuning in, I appreciate you guys. Season 2, this is big for me. And I'm beyond grateful. And I thank you guys for tuning in. You can find us on all streaming platforms, anywhere where podcasts exist. We are there. Any social platforms, you can find us. We are the Brand Podcast. Check me out, Frankie Fabre, our agency, Fabre Media. And yo, this is the new studio, right?
Yeah,
this is Fabre Studios,
this
bro.
This shit is fire.
We're holding it down. And if you're in the Chicago area and you're looking for a place to run your podcast out of, or you want to do some creative things, tap in with us. We'll leave all of the things in there. And for everybody on YouTube, subscribe. Hit subscribe. Drop a comment. And for everybody that wanted all of this, all of the tea, right? Share it. Let people know. And don't try to turn it or twist it. Just
please
let people say what they mean and mean what they say. So until then, you guys take care. Peace.